Hey guys, and welcome back to Gabbin with Jessa. In today's video, I am finally getting back to my book versus movie series on Harry Potter. Like I've said in my two other previous book versus movies that I've recently put out, I've decided to restructure this, and instead of doing a points basis system, I just decided, let's just talk about it. Let's just have fun. Let's have a chat about it. And I want to hear what you guys have to say too, so don't forget to leave comments because that will be a lot of fun. We are continuing the series with book number 3 and movie number 3, which is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is a 1999 novel that is the continuation of Harry Potter and his friends, his journey during wizarding school and taking down the big bad Lord Voldemort. This is his 3rd year, so it was the 3rd book in the series. It was later adapted into a 2004 movie introducing Michael Gambon, David Wells, Gary Oldman, and Emma Thompson to the cast. Alrighty, let's just jump right into the discussion. So one of the big differences that started right off with the movie versus the book is that the book has a lot more at home with the Dursleys. Now that the Dursleys know that he can't use magic outside of school because of what happened in book 2, they are very strict on him now. They are harder on him. And we just see a lot more of that interaction between Harry and the Dursleys as Harry's also growing up, becoming a little more vocal in his opinions. There is a shift, but also one of my favorite scenes from this is Ron trying to use the telephone for the first time because he's never used one before. At the end of the 2nd book, Harry gave Ron his phone number so that way he can try to call him, but of course Ron doesn't know how to use the phone, so it just makes for a very funny scene of Ron literally yelling into the phone trying to figure out how to use it. And of course this makes the Dursleys very upset and just doesn't help with what is going on. In the movie, we know we just automatically start with Aunt Marge arriving to the scene, but there is a lot more that goes on before she even gets to that point. Another thing that I found very interesting was that Sirius Black was mentioned on the Muggle news as an escaped prisoner. Of course, they don't mention that he was a wizard or what he did or anything like that, but just that he was an escaped murderer, and I thought that was very interesting that the book mentions that because it shows that this wizarding world has more of an impact on the people around, like the Muggles around, rather than just the wizarding world. And I thought that was really fascinating, and I wish they included that in the book or in the movie, excuse me. It just shows that this is a world that affects everyone, not just themselves. So Aunt March comes and we're still having arguments about Harry's parents and his family and things like that. But there's actually a lot more fighting that goes on between Harry and Marge in the book, but you see Harry try not to get to that point because he remembers his expulsion, that if he uses magic outside of school again, he will be expelled because of the Dobby incident, again from book 2. And so he's holding back a lot, but also there's a lot that he wants to push forward. And that's seen in the book, and I think that shows also a level of maturity of Harry trying to stand up and fight for his rights, but also knowing deep down that he can't do this because it will cost him something. Of course, Harry blows up his aunt, and I love this in the movie. I thought it looked so good in the movie. I thought the effects that they did were fun. I thought the whole scene was fun. I also love that after Harry decides to run away because he's like, well, gotta get out of here, that you see her like floating off in the distance. I don't know, everything about that was just so fun, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. And one thing I want to mention about the movie too is that this one is directed by Alfonso Cuarón, so we have a new director. We also have a little bit more maturity, more mature material than we did in the first 2 movies, while still not getting to that scary parts yet. But this film is beautiful. I think that this film is visually stunning. While I think a lot of the information may have been taken away because of it, I still love how beautiful this film is to watch. Another thing I think I loved, and I think it was just because I watched it when I was young, was the talking heads in the night bus. Obviously, Stan Shupike, the actor for him, is absolutely amazing. I think that he did a great job. He definitely brought that character to life. But I also love the little talking heads during it, which kind of contradicts my next point, but as a kid, when I first watched that, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of fun. So Harry and Stan, or Harry posing as Neville and Stan, have this conversation about Sirius Black that's very serious. And I think in the movie it's replaced by humor of Harry, like, the bus stopping and then Harry, getting face planted against the window or anything like that. And I think that it took away a lot of the serious conversations and replaced it with humor for a little bit. While I did enjoy that, it's like I said when I was younger, I see now that more could have been added. Also, talking about the seriousness of Sirius Black, we see that Harry, after he gets to, you know, the Leaky Cauldron, he's staying there, he's got his books, everyone's there now. We see Mr. and Mrs. Weasley talking to each other about whether or not they should talk to Harry about Sirius Black rather than Mr. Weasley just taking him away and talking to him. So I think that this also shows how much Sirius really impacted the wizarding world more than people may think. People think that Voldemort is the big bad, but really people are just as afraid of Sirius Black too, and that's really surprising. And I think that's something that the movie kind of lacked. Yeah, they made him seem scary and crazy, but like you didn't get that sense of fear of who he was from the movie, in my opinion. So we're on the train gets stopped by Dementors, and these Dementors are so beautiful. I think they were brought to life in the most perfect way. I think that they were creepy, they were, you know, ghost-like, and I don't know, everything about them is just exactly what I pictured, exactly how I feel like the best way to be translated from page to screen was. And I really like that. I think that was a beautiful part of the movie. When I was watching this movie again, I realized that there was a lot of unnecessary humor added in, which again, I enjoyed when I was little, but then, you know, watching back on it after reading the series multiple times and being able to dive deeper into it, I realized that there is a lot of humor in this movie. Specifically, one of the scenes that stands out to me is the fat lady singing, and she's trying to break the glass, but then she like throws it behind her to break it. I don't know, that seems fun. It still puts a smile on my face, but I don't know, I think that some of those moments, like that one specifically, didn't need to be added in the movie. We get the wonderful and talented Emma Thompson as the crazy Sybil Trelawney, and she does an absolutely amazing job. This is the first year we are introduced to divination. I don't know, she's crazy, she's great in it. But one thing that I didn't like was that they removed Pavarti and Lavender, who actually did like Trelawney, who actually had a fascination in divination and wanted to continue it. They removed the likeness for Trelawney, I think just to make her look a little more crazy, but I think they should have kept that in, or maybe just shown that people actually did like her, because we get the scene later on of Hermione, you know, pushing off the crystal ball, like them having their argument, and, you know, Ron and Harry are always falling asleep during the class. I wish that there was something to show that, yes, even though she's crazy, she still has people who look up to her and look up to the craft of divination. And that would have been nice, because it does show that she is a person too. The movie leaves out like all of Quidditch, and this is probably the most important Quidditch year to Harry, because it is the year that they win the Quidditch Cup. So that is a lot of fun. Of course, it's Oliver Wood's last year, and this is all he wants, is to win the Quidditch Cup, and he did, and that's absolutely amazing. They, at this point, were also introduced to Cho Chang and Cedric Diggory, the Seekers for both Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff respectively, and this is when Harry starts to develop his crush on Cho Chang, because, you know, she's a Quidditch player, but we never knew that from the movies, any of the movies. And so I think, I don't know, they do have the one Quidditch scene with the Dementors and the guy that's supposed to be like Cedric Diggory, but I don't know, it just doesn't, it's just not the same. You don't get the same heartfelt, meaningfelt Quidditch games, and Harry finally winning in the end, you don't get that in the movies. I don't recall if there is a scene like this in the movie, but I know in the book a lot, during one of Harry and Lupin's, you know, talking scenes, we see Snape come up and he gives Lupin the Wolfsbane potion. Of course, we don't know that it is Wolfsbane potion or what he's giving it to him for, but this is one of the hints, at least in the book, that I think could have been translated to screen that show that Snape has a good heart, even though Lupin is someone that he absolutely despises, mostly because of the friends Lupin had, which was Harry's father and Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew, how mostly just James and Sirius always bullied Snape, and Lupin was just kind of there. Lupin still is getting help from Snape. Snape still wants to help him, probably on Dumbledore's orders, but you never know. It's just, it's something to help show the good in Snape. One of the most revealing scenes is the one where Harry, under the invisibility cloak, after he takes the Marauders map from the twins, they're in Hogsmeade, you know, having a grand old time, and the teachers and Hagrid and some other wizarding adults are talking about Harry and how Sirius Black is his godfather. And of course, that's a big revealing moment. Harry doesn't know that. No one knows about that. But in the movie, we get it. It's still, you know, big shocker. But I don't think it's in the book, they have a much longer explanation for it, a more detailed thing of what actually happened to him, what actually happened to Pettigrew, how they only found his finger or whatever. And it's just a better explanation and a more revealing twist to me than in the movie. Also in this movie, one of my favorite scenes is the Buckbeak scene where Harry is flying, everything with that music and just picturing that. You want it to happen to yourself. But that is the only scene that we get of Hagrid teaching in his classroom. There's actually a lot more scenes after the Buckbeak incident with Draco that happen and show that how much Hagrid really does care, but also how much this trial is affecting him. And I wish we kind of got to see more classroom. We all know that the classroom scenes in these movies just are very much put on the back burner. I wish that we saw more Hagrid teaching, because Hagrid is a character that we love and that only wants to do good and was wrongly accused, or his hippogriff was wrongly accused, and I just want to see more. The trio also tries to help him a lot by doing research to see if they can prove Buckbeak's innocence and things like that. They want to help Hagrid, and we don't really see that again in the movie. They just kind of ask him questions. Oh, how was the trial? How'd it go? But in the book, they really want to help. Like Hermione, Ron, Harry, all three of them say that they're going to do research and that they're going to help. None of them do, but it's still really nice to see that they're there for Hagrid. I believe this is a deleted scene, which I think that should have been in the movie, where Sir Cadogan, the replacement for the fat lady, lets in Sirius Black into, you know, the Gryffindor common room, so that way he goes up and tries to attack Ron, but really Peter Pettigrew as Scabbers. And he's like, oh, I let him in because he had the password, because he kept changing the password, so Neville kept writing it down. And so Neville drops them all over the place, misplaces them. And I think this is a really important scene to show how, because I believe they still have Ron being attacked by Scabbers, or by Sirius Black, because he's trying to get Scabbers, but there's not really an explanation for it. And like I said, I believe it's a deleted scene, and I think they should have kept it in. Also, the scene where Harry sees Peter Pettigrew's name on the map, and then he goes out, tries to investigate, and, you know, runs into Snape, it's dark, and he runs into Lupin, you know that scene. That never happens in the book. That is something that never comes up. So I think it's more a question of when people see the movies, they're like, oh, how did they not see that Ron was sleeping with or always with Peter Pettigrew? It makes that more confusing, whereas in the book, we don't really see that. We don't get an explanation for that. And it's something that I know I'm trying to look more into, but it's not something that happens in the book. It was an added scene. Another scene that I know everybody hates is the final ending scene with Harry flying off on the firebolt and then that weird freeze frame. But this scene actually happens in the middle of the book, not the end of the book. We eventually find out that the broom is from Sirius, but, you know, Hermione's all nervous about it. It's from a mystery sender. She wants to get it inspected for dark magic because, you know, everyone's always after Harry. And so this becomes a scene with more tension between the trio because they're like, oh my gosh, cool, look at this broom. And Hermione's like, I'm not sure about this. So it creates more tension and it's much better than what they decided to end with. And one of the things that I love seeing in the movies is Hermione punch Draco. That is a great scene. I absolutely love seeing that, and it was a lot of fun when I was younger and seeing it, and it's still a lot of fun now. I think one of the biggest complaints this movie gets is that they completely leave out the backstory of the Marauders. They don't really talk about how Lupin is the way he is, how he became a werewolf. They don't talk about the reason that he is the reason behind the Whomping Willow and the Shrieking Shack, how it was a place that Dumbledore created for Lupin so that way he can go and transform in peace and not have to be around anybody. So the Whomping Willow was the entrance into the Shrieking Shack. They don't talk about how the rest of them, James, Sirius, and Peter, all became animagi, so that way they can transform with Lupin, so that way he wouldn't be alone, but also that they wouldn't be human, so that way Lupin's werewolf instincts wouldn't want to attack them. They'd just be fellow animals. And they don't talk about that they are the reasons why the Marauders map is. They created the Marauders map. And I think that a lot of people were really looking forward to seeing these stories, these explanations of how they are the way that they are. And then we didn't get any of that. We just got that, you know, Lupin and Sirius were friends, Lupin's a werewolf, and that's about it. Also, they leave out a very important detail, is that Crookshanks, while being very annoying to Scabbers at the time, was actually on the side of Sirius Black. Crookshanks was trying to help Sirius get Peter Pettigrew while he was in his Scabbers form, and Lupin even comments and says, hey, you have a smart cat there, Hermione. And Crookshanks does play a big part in this book, and I think that, oh, it would have been so fun to have that come to light. One of the biggest reveals also here was the main reason that Harry's parents died, and that is because Sirius Black was their secret keeper, but everyone assumed that he would be it. They assumed that Voldemort would assume that Sirius Black would be it because Sirius and James were best friends growing up, so they decided to switch it to Peter Pettigrew. And so when Peter Pettigrew became the secret keeper, he was the only one who could tell anyone about the location of where James and Lily were. So Peter, obviously being scared of Lord Voldemort and what he could do, he was the one that went and told Voldemort where they were, so that way Voldemort could go and kill them on that Halloween night. And that is the reason why they are dead. It is because Peter Pettigrew betrayed their friendship that he had with James. Another thing that I love in this movie that I guess kind of makes up for the fact that they left out that Snape was the one giving Lupin the Wolfsbane potion to help him out is that he kind of stands guard in front of the trio while Lupin is going through his transformation. Of course, it's all scary and everything like that, but Snape is sacrificing himself for the kids. He stands in front of the trio and blocks them out of the way, and I really like that in the movie. I think that it was a very good movie Snapeism. Then of course, you know, we get the time turner scene. Not much really changed with that. We still get the same basic result because in this timeline, or in this world, time is a closed loop, so that way nothing will affect the timeline or anything like that. So I thought they did a really good job in the movie, you know, translating that, because time travel can be hard, it can be difficult, and they added little things throughout the movie to help show how time travel in the wizarding world works. At the end of the movie, Dumbledore also explains now that Peter Pettigrew is in debt to Harry because Harry decided to save his life, bring him back to the castle, instead of having Lupin and Sirius just kill him right then and there while they were in the Shrieking Shack. And I think that this is an important key thing to have, because it is the reason why in later books that Peter seems to not follow instructions and not kill Harry or not get Harry, because he knows that he owes his life to Harry. And I think that's really interesting in the long run. And of course, we get a better ending to the book than we did the ending in the movie, with Sirius Black writing to Harry saying, oh, hey, thanks for everything, I've escaped now, but also here is my permission as your godfather so you can go to Hogsmeade so he doesn't have to try to sneak around anymore. And he also replaces Ron's pet rat because now he doesn't have one because it was Peter Pettigrew, and he gives him a little owl called Pigwidgeon. And it is so cute, and I love it, and it's just a very happy ending. So that is my book versus movie on Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. And until next time, keep on gabbing.